System riding to the core. Yeah. Reppin' inner city left.
This is the Inner City Left broadcast. Today is Monday, March 9th. I am Amin TMK alongside Amoja, Lil Tanky, Sumler, and Keita the Muscle. Gang's all here. Muscle, Tanky, how are you guys doing today?
Surprisingly, alive, alert. That's better than most.
Yeah, considering what's happening across the globe, even domestically right now, whether that's the United States or here in the DMV area.
There's lots to talk about. And I think, again, it's important for independent media to exist because the coverage of the domestic issues, the war issues, the Trump issues, all of those things are laughable, okay? They are terrible. The amount of information that the average American has about what's going on is comical. I bring up the comedy thing because one of the most popular, I guess, I'm just going to say propagandists that we have in America, especially on the neoliberal side, is a guy by the name of Jon Stewart. He was doing The Daily Show for many years, took a step back, but now he has returned and is covering the Iran war. This I just saw. It was just so gross. I'm going to show you guys this, and then we can have a little discussion. This is Jon Stewart on, I guess this was one of his Daily Show episodes, either 2 days ago or sometime last week. And I'll just play it. Yeah, he later goes on, I didn't have the whole thing, but he later goes on to sort of discuss that Iran is just hitting people willy-nilly. They don't know what they're doing. They're just throwing out missiles and hitting whoever. Whoever wants to start can start. What is your response to how ridiculous this is?
I want to reiterate once again, I am an American. I've lived in America my entire life. I'm Jewish. I've practiced kosher living my entire life, as much as one can in the United States of America. So I want that to be stated before I say anything about Mr. Leibowitz. That's some tacky ass shit. That's some tacky ass shit. Like, we all know how easy it will be to go in on the Dalai Lama and his real proclivities, right? We know how easy it will be to go in on the Pope with all of the failings of the Roman Catholic Church. But he would never do that, would he? He would never do that. Going in on religious leaders, that shit is fucking foul. Like, I don't have to believe what they believe to know tens of millions of people, perhaps hundreds of millions of people follow Shia Islam. And this is their most revered holy leader. Cracking jokes about their theology, that shit's not cool. And what I heard was, did you notice how the laughter seemed a little bit weird? Because he films in front of a live studio audience, but that wasn't live studio audience applause. They piped in studio applause. That's why, like, in the middle of the little diatribe, weak-ass monologue, he's like, oh, am I going too hard? Because nobody in the crowd was laughing. The studio had to go back post-production and add laugh tracks. That's how corny these motherfuckers are. And again, it just goes to show you how useless, right, liberals are. You scratch a liberal and a fascist bleeds.
Sorry, Muscle, your initial reaction, thoughts on Jon Stewart's little monologue right there?
I just think it's interesting because, of course, how much of this is how little Americans know about what's happening globally and the immense privilege that affords so many Americans, including the people that we position in these media outlets like Jon Stewart, bringing him back out of retirement for the 2024 elections to really play the Biden and Trump thing up and never introducing any alternative rhetoric. And then even this here now, which in some ways maybe is him trying to, like, I can't trust a man whose excuse for being in the Epstein files is like, well, I was hosting a biography with Woody Allen. And I'm like, Woody Allen is not any better than Epstein. So I'm not sure why I should be listening to anything that you say right now. But also the sheer ignorance that he's countering under comedy. And I feel like it's a habit that a lot of white people, especially white men, do, where they're like, well, I was just being funny. People don't know how to joke around anymore. And it's like, this is not a time for comedy. This is a time for something very serious as the United States engages in another illegal war, particularly one that is leading to the deaths of thousands of people, potentially millions worldwide, that this is a habit that we've had since the beginning days of colonization of this country, and how he absolutely perpetuates that in a way that allows liberals and American public in large to be like, well, I don't know anything about it. And so it's funny because like somebody died and somebody told me that this man was bad and I'm never going to investigate or further look into why that is. And how it glosses over and makes war funny. It makes war sexy. It makes war something that's acceptable to the American populace in a way that it should never, ever, ever be.
Well, as the resident Muslim here, let me just say a few things. Number one, the ridiculous thing of the 40 virgins and the martyrdom and all of that, and the 86-year-old is they're going to be upset and all that other stuff. That is just so out of pocket. That's so beyond the pale of what you're saying.
Tacky, man.
Not to mention
tacky.
In Islam, in Islam, you don't return to Jannah as the age you were then you died, you freaking idiot. But if you knew even one thing about Islam or respected Islam in any way, you would never tell that joke. That was beyond the pale. And then the other thing, Khomeini, you really mentioned it, Tanky. Khomeini, you guys are mad that I'm saying this about, Khomeini. Yeah, bro. Like a genocidal dictator is just a lie. That's just a lie. And to not even acknowledge, and the American government and their propaganda arm just keeps doing this. Iran is a democracy, man. They have a president, man, and the president makes most of the decisions. Khomeini is in many ways similar to, the King of England. Of course, they can make decisions, but it is not really impolitic for them to constantly do that, at least not in the everyday of Iran. That's why killing the Ayatollah is not going to help you regime change Iran, or it's not going to help you defeat, quote unquote, whatever defeating Iran is, air quotes, is not going to help you do that. And when you say dictator, I'm just going to assume that you are just a propagandist.
Would he ever call the Pope a dictator?
And the Pope is absolutely like, who even knows how this freaking clandestine selection process is for the Pope and all that other stuff. Like, you're so right, man. It's just a disrespect. It's so Islamophobic. Dalai Lama
a dictator,
Of course. Or the fact that the Catholic Church and its absolute complicity in the enslavement of people across the globe, the brutal colonization that it enacted in South America and the islands in the Caribbean, like, miss me with that shit.
Now, that brings me to the next thing that he did, because everything he did was incendiary. It was meant to be a chaos bomb thrown in there. Okay, so I am looking at a tracker right now, and this is fascinating. Anybody that wants to follow this work, go to Iran-cost-ticker.com, and it is using the Pentagon applied stats, right? I'm going to come back to this several times throughout this broadcast. Okay, according to the Pentagon itself, after 8 days of extraordinary, hellish firepower, all the firepower, okay, at the hands, at the use of the Israeli Air Force and the American Air Force, and what we have so far, okay, is 1,380 confirmed Iranian military deaths. 1,489 confirmed Iranian civilian deaths. This is 8 days of hellfire dropping down from the skies at a cost of $11,574 per second. Okay. That's 8 days of bombing. And only, right, by these estimates, less than 3,000 people dead. But we're supposed to somehow believe the Iranian government went in without bombs, without tanks, and killed 30,000 people in 3 days? Like, that's a number that just buggers the fucking mind. Like, you have to be a little bit critical when you hear these ridiculous numbers, especially when 2 weeks later we're at war, and start to think to yourself, maybe I'm being primed to have antipathy towards any type of thing that might happen to the Iranians. So we're supposed to believe this mad mullah regime, as they like to go and say, right? They killed more of their own people than the Americans and the Israelis. More interestingly, they kill more of their people, according to these figures, right, that we're hearing on CNN and the New York Times, than they've killed Israelis. Like, whatever you might choose to think about the Iranian government, do you honestly, seriously believe they hate their own people more than they hate the Israelis? Like, these are just little bitty ways where you have to be able to pull on the strings of these narratives because they don't pass muster. They don't realistically make sense. We're supposed to believe in 4 years of the conflict between the Gazans, right, and the Israelis, that the Israelis only killed 50,000 people with all the firepower on earth, man. But the Iranians killed 30,000 of their own people in 3 days. Like, you can't believe that kind of silly shit, man. And he's right on with that. Let's make one more little data point and I'll give it back to you guys. Let's say you did want to believe those numbers, okay? Let's say you wanted to believe that, and we're just looking at data. We're not analyzing any type of factual basis. Let's just take that number at truth. So you're attacking this regime, right? Because, you know, oh my God, you're a good person, and you're supposed to attack people that do those kind of things. Where's all the jokes on Trump? Because we got real data that continues to be dropped even in the midst of this war that strongly insinuate violations of a sexual manner of a 13-year-old girl. We've had people in Congress speak to this. I think it was Ted Lieu spoke to this. You know, where are the jokes there? And this is why we say this is punching down, right? Mr. Leibovitz, for some reason, finds it ironic and humorous and funny to poke fun of a country that has, let's be honest, been attacked by the United States and been attacked by Israel.
Leibovitz is John Stewart, right? I mean, is that who you're acknowledging?
Mr. Leibovitz.
Yeah,
yes.
Okay.
Mr. Leibovitz.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I didn't know if the rest of the audience understood. I knew we knew, but you didn't really say John Stewart was Leibovitz, so I was just trying to throw that in there. I didn't mean to stop you. Yeah.
No, that was it. That was the end of it. I mean, because again, all I'm saying is be critical. Okay, the art of war says all war is deception. Okay, so everything we're hearing from the Iranians, you got to take with a grain of salt. Everything you're hearing from the Israelis, you got to take with a grain of salt. And I know this is just impossible to believe because I can't imagine the American government ever lying a little on me. But everything that we're hearing from our government right now, we have to take with a grain of salt.
And we have to, because I know I always harp on like the historical context of things like this happening, that none of this happens in isolation. It can't. We have the entire course of human history behind us and in front of us. And the United States in particular is known for murdering journalists. And they were abolitionists who were trying to talk about like, hey, slavery, bad, terrible, awful. Let's not do that. And the United States government expanded the Sedition Act to be like, hey, if you talk too much crap about the government and we find out that you are some form of foreign, however this government defines it. And we know from the color of law, like it's not defined very well at all because white supremacy is stupid. But that at any point, anybody can get grabbed under like, oh, you're committing treason and sedition against the United States government for printing things they don't like, not even things that are untrue, but things that they do not like, and how it affects absolutely every system that we have. This is why we call them systemic issues. And journalism is not immune to that. People have this because of the propaganda surrounding it as well, right? That it's like unbiased and it's this inspirational field and they're going in and embedding themselves and telling the truth. And yet I've had to read from coverage of the Iraq War to of Afghanistan, Desert Storm, the Gulf War, like all of these journalists who are going into these places where America succeeds, and they tend to say, all I saw were Americans. I didn't see Iraqis. I didn't see Iranians. I didn't see any of the people who live there. And I knew it was a sign of the future. And how do we not read that and understand what this government is attempting to do based on the historical context of what it has done before? And I mean, that's the other part, is that Jon Stewart isn't even clever. They have been running this propaganda machine against these religious figures, trying to defang and many times make fun of and humorize Muslims and Arabs in a way that is absolutely dehumanizing. And we see it over the course of human history, the way we talk about Palestine, the way we talk about even the Japanese internment camps, the way we talk about Korea, the way we talk about all of these military bases, which shouldn't even be in other people's sovereign countries. And so Jon Stewart is part of that long history. And he absolutely has taken the Dragons deal and said it's better to be part of the freaking machine than to ever move against it. And the entire field of journalism in the United States has been swallowed by that machine.
Yeah, carpe diem too, right? Where are the fucking bodies? Like 30,000 people is an incredible amount of people. That's like the population of Conway, Arkansas. Okay, not quite a city, right?
Where?
But that's right.
Exactly. You need another example, man.
Right. Well, I mean, bruh, there's no 30,000 town, 30,000 people. You know,
there's no famous 30,000. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's the whole
akin
point
to
of
a
it.
small town in Arkansas.
A small town in Arkansas would be about 30,000 people. Okay. Do you understand the amount of disease that would be ravaging the country if 30,000 bodies were left out unattended to, bro?
I don't know if you heard this, man. It was one of those U.S. officials. It might have been Hegseth who was like, man, we got so much infiltration in Iran. We know street by street where things are. We got a view of every
where the
building.
Fucking photos. We got photos of Guantanamo Bay, for fuck's sake, man. Where are the photos of the 30,000 dead people that are not AI? That's all I'm saying. Show me the bodies. Carpe diem.
Yeah, it's very easy to talk about that when, you know, we have tons and tons of footage of the genocide in Palestine. I mean, it's so much. It's overwhelming. I mean, they basically had to change the way that social media even works to suppress the amount of images that are coming out of Palestine, which is, especially Gaza, is one of the most restricted internet access places you can find on the planet right now. So they're still able to find those photos. They're still able to find those videos. But somehow, even though we've completely infiltrated Iran and that there is a Mossad agent walking in lockstep with your average Iranian, if you go by what Mike Pompeo said, you can now. So all of that's there, but you guys have not been able to put together that these protests are being killed. And I've heard this more and more from just general celebrities, general politicians trying to be like, oh, hey, here's the thing. Two things can be true at once. If you say two things can be true at once, you're an op, or you're an unknowing op.
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, it forces you to believe that the Iranians have better informational security than the Israelis. Like, that's not real, okay? Like, if you understand anything about the way that Iran has been compromised in as far as like the internet goes, like Stuxnet. Okay, that the Israelis and the Americans were able to create viruses that they inserted into their entire uranium refining process. You know, again, I think it was Mark Pompeo that talked about how all of the cameras and the traffic signals in Iran are completely compromised, and that's how they were able to tell, you know, where the Ayatollah was. So again, someone had the ability to count 30,000 bodies, but no one had the damn sense to take a photo. Not one. Come on, man.
Yes. But also dialectical thinking is important as a part of human experience. That like two things can be true at once is about ideas and feelings, the nebulous things that we cannot perfectly verify, not things that we could say like, oh, no, the United States government is a good guy and so are these other countries, or this country is a dictator and the United States is a hero. These are not verifiably true things. They're not nebulous things that we can just say because we don't want to dive in and do the hard critical thinking and the hard work of honestly having sometimes our reality be shattered. More Americans need to get comfortable with having that reality shattered, that you can think of yourself as a good person and be part of a country that has done the most horrific things that we have seen in human history. The level of depravity that we are having to witness and that we're not fighting back against in many ways, or fighting back in such small pockets that it's not having enough of an effect on the machine itself. Like, and it's frustrating because, of course, what people are using, the two things can be true at once, is to absolutely hide behind the fact that they don't want to investigate that. And I'm sorry, we have to. We have to hold both the truth that I don't know everything that can happen in the world, and yet it is my responsibility to this world to find out and stop the depravity that I see in front of me so people can have a good freaking life, not just me and my family and my friends, but that everybody across the globe can have these things that every human being should have. Like, why do we have human rights? Why did we build society itself at all if we're going to just completely ignore what that means for us? And to hold these multiple truths at once as an idea, not as the literal truths that we're having to face in the moment that is verifiable. This country is murdering people. This country has participated in human trafficking for 250 years of its history since its founding, built off of the human trafficking that was spread by Europe, in fact, and continues to perpetuate to this day. Like, yeah, it's very frustrating.
Two things can be true at once is for shit like saying Jupiter is incredibly massive, and yet compared to the sun, it's insignificant. That's it. Two things are true at once, right? Like if you make a right, that's a right. If you make a left, it's a left. But if you make three lefts, it's a right. Two things can be true at once. It's not for the Americans are completely without flaw. Or how about the Americans have made mistakes, but the Iranians also deserve to punish, right?
Exactly.
Who gives the United States the authority to determine unilaterally, I might add, right? This wasn't even like George W. Bush going to the United Nations Security Council. There was none of that. This was not going to Congress. There was none of that. Not that Congress would have been any type of a backstop. I'm simply saying they didn't even go through the motions. They went out, they sold this stupid ass lie to everybody. Oh my God, the Iranians killed 30,000 people. While at the same time, Mike Pompeo is on the microphone saying we have deeply embedded them. We are trying to impose a coup to bring back the Shah, who is a torturous, hated son of a bitch who has no desire to really be in Iran at all because they know what would happen. Without an American protection, without Israeli protection, this man would not last 48 hours because the people have no connection to him. And let's be honest, he has no connection to them. Half of these Iranians you are seeing are paid fucking ops. That is not me being spicy. You know, the little weirdo chick with the flower in her hair, she got $860,000 last year to go on the TV and talk bad about Iran. She's not out, like, where do you think these people come from? Who do you think is paying these people? Who do you think is putting these people in the places where they can make their voices be put out there? Because I gotta say, man, the Iranian diaspora, man, we thought that the Cubans and the Venezuelans were some wild motherfuckers, but these expat Iranians who are all servants of the Shah or literally sons of the Shah, man, they take the cake. They on a whole new level.
You're talking about Masha al-Najad. Got $834,000. That's been reported.
Damn it, I lied. Crazy. I gave her $30,000 more than she did.
It's all good. It's all good. But you mentioned a good point, and I just want to move on to this real here. This is from our friend, our very good friend running for Green Party in California, Butch Ware. This is, let me remove this thing, our little banner here. But basically, it is funny how there is always just enough Dems for them not to resist, huh? Feigned opposition party. Dems are a boxer who gets paid more to lose, to throw a fight and win the prize money than when they would get to win it. And this is saying 4 House Democrats help defeat effort to rein in Trump's war powers. Always just enough for the Democrats to lose. When are we, friends, family, my co-founders of Inner City Left, when are the people going to realize that the Democrats, just like Butch Ware, who either him or the PSL candidate should be the governor of California, other than any of these clowns, any of these Democratic or Republican clowns. I mean, we had an opportunity. All the Democrats, oh, Trump's going about the Iran war in the wrong way. Oh, look what he's doing. But when it comes down to the votes, when it comes down to a coalition that can stop these things from happening, which you say you want, doesn't happen.
And you heard it first on Inner City Left. We told you a month ago, these Democrats wanted to ride the fence because they wanted to see how the op would go. If Trump was able to go in there and get mission accomplished, they didn't want to have no votes on the record because that would affect their AIPAC money and all of their other big PACs, those political action committees that they're getting the money from. However, if it went bad, they wouldn't have their votes on the record having voted for this. We told you a month ago the Democrats were going to let this play, that they had no real desire to step in and impose the will of Congress on this because they win either way. Sometimes the best move is doing nothing. We've talked about that several times on this show. And again, anybody that's ever watched House of Cards or has even the most basic understanding of how the House of Representatives works, where the fuck was the Democratic whip? Why wasn't he able to whip those 4 votes? 4 votes? You can't whip 4 votes to make sure that, all we're saying is that wouldn't even stopped the president. It just would have forced him to go to Congress and ask permission. So instead,
and the whole point of the vote wasn't even brought up by Democrats. Brought up by another Republican,
Thomas Massey,
who is, eating on all this stuff. And there's no Democrats that are doing that. There are no Democrats that are using the ridiculousness of what Trump is doing to make any real change or make a name for themselves. They all just poo-poo on him and try to build some sort of currency, some sort of political currency from this, even though they're not actually doing anything. Muscle, thoughts on the always just enough not to pass.
I think I'm trying to phrase this in a way that the American people have been led to believe a lie, that we have a democracy structured around us voting in elections every 2 years, voting in the primaries, voting in our local elections, and then voting in this presidential election. And then after that, we monitor nothing, right? I very few people, even journalists, I would say, very few people in America follow how their representative actually votes. Because I think if they paid attention, we would see a lot more change. But also that is by design of the system, that when we have to take our civic engagement classes, I think it's still called civics, Back in the day, but civics classes, and we have to hear about, oh, yes, America's a great democracy, and here we are. And yet, Representative Jared Golden from Maine has definitely, who serves on the House Armed Services Committee. I don't even know if Americans know what the House Armed Services Committee does. The Sea Power and Projection Forces Subcommittee. Do Americans know we have that when we're talking about what does sea power and projection forces look like? We have a subcommittee to determine what that looks like. And he's voted for Trump, voted against a proposal from his party colleagues to block Trump's tariffs on Canada. He was the only Democrat to do so. He also voted last November against the majority of his party to end the record-long government shutdown. And we can have mixed feelings about what the shutdown means and how it has absolutely very real effects on the American people. But also the history of the Democratic Party, which very much used to represent Republican ideals and the way it's been shaped, and even the people who are allowed to be in office and what do they do and what do they represent. But there's this great illusion that is being cracked at the seams. Now, of course, some people desperately need to hold on to that because it's very hard to deal with reality shaking truth. And you're like, I just need to get through the day. I have these other problems that I need to deal with. And how, as even Takey kind of hinted at, how minuscule they are compared to what's happening across the globe and what's happening with us. But the United States has a long history of it. Even on this podcast, we've long made fun of Bernie Sanders, who everyone says is like, he's so left. And we're like, he's not even close to the center at this point in American politics.
By American political standards.
By American political standards, but I look at it from
by
global standards.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have to look at it as global standards because this is what America itself, the war machine and the hegemony that it tries to perpetuate across the globe, it can't allow actual leftist thought to exist, not domestically and not globally. Because then we have examples of like, wait, we could have universal health care, not just health insurance. We could have food for everybody. Yeah, we could have housing. We could have free education. Like, this is why they're trying to stop Cuba. This is why the United States is trying to stop Mexico from succeeding too well. This is why America kidnapped Maduro from Venezuela. This is why the United States essentially took over Argentina. Like, and how the Democrats absolutely are not just complicit in it, but perpetuate it actively. We act like they're there and, oh no, they can't do anything. We read their tweets. Oh no, who's going to stop the president? You! What the fuck did we vote for you for? Like, that is your literal one singular job, is to hold your powers of congressional ability. What is it? Act 1, I believe, that ensures that congressional oversight, Article 1 authority, which grants Congress all legislative powers. Even Moskowitz was saying, like, over the last year, we have seen a ludicrous increase in the speed of Congress's abdication of authority to the executive branch. And how I need to say, like, that's priming us for something. That's priming us for a change that we don't want to consider and think about. But these powers, Congress is abdicating because it's part of the same class power of these billionaire classes and these corporations who think that they should own everything in the United States and that they actually know what's best for everyone across the globe. They're all part of that same class structure, and they have never been on our side. It's impossible for them to be on our side. And we can see that in the legislation they've enacted over and over again that absolutely works against working class people and won't ever help us get a leg up. And in many ways, we can never rely on people like that to do it. We can't abdicate our own responsibility to what we owe ourselves in, like, ensuring that a better universe happens.
You mentioned Mexico, and I want to bring this up because Mexico and Cuba have to also be in our practice. Venezuela as well. The war in Iran is not the only war that is that the United States is carrying out. And I am going to return to Iran. And we were not done with Iran, but you mentioned Mexico, and I want to put this out there, okay? Latest data in Mexico shows working poverty continues its dramatic decline under the fourth transformation. You guys are seeing this now. It's gone. We had moments here, 45%. We're now under 33%. Major major changes happening in Mexico. So what are we hearing? Are we hearing about that on our news coverage? Do we hear about that in mainstream media?
You hear about the cartels.
That's the one thing that we hear. Cartels this, cartels that. The fact of the matter is the drug cartels, if you know anything about the United States, if you know anything about drugs, you know that the United States pushes drugs. Ronald Reagan was a drug dealer. It's a great album you can check out. That literally is called that. And Mexico, because it's such an important Central American country, it's right on the border with America. Again, the most militarized border between two countries not at war on the planet. Yet there's always some right-wing person, or even, I don't want to say right-wing anymore, because Kamala Harris ran most of her campaign on being strong on the border. It's the most militarized border between two non-militarized countries, yet it somehow has to continue to get more. It's truly ridiculous. And the dislike and the hate of the Claudia Sheinbaum movement, and you can see right here, the Dante Muniz, this is from his ex, the reason why wealthy people hate Claudia Sheinbaum and the Morena Party. That's it right there. And I just want to use that because we had Donnie J. He's now talking about, or he's been talking about, diving in and going into Mexico, going into these places, going into Colombia and fighting these so-called drug cartels. And we know what that's for. I'm going to play this and I'll get your guys' responses.
Together to announce a brand new military coalition to eradicate the criminal cartels plaguing our region. And you have a lot of it. One of the things when we were talking backstage, you were telling me the crime, the cartels, and we're knocking the hell out of them where we can. We're going to go heavier. You saw what we were doing with the boats coming in. The boats, there's not a lot of people coming in by boats anymore. We knocked down drugs coming in by sea. Drugs coming in through water is down 96%. We're trying to find out who the other 4% are, because I think they're the bravest people in the world. Either that or they don't watch television, right? They're either very brave or they're not watching. But we're calling this military partnership the America's Counter Cartel Coalition. And that's what you need. You have cartels. They seem to grow in this region unbelievably rapidly. Has to do with drugs largely. Earlier this week here in Miami, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, who's right here. Pete, you are fantastic, doing a great job. We're proud of you. And representatives of 17 different nations formally entered this new alliance. The heart of our agreement is a commitment to using lethal military force to destroy the sinister cartels and terrorist networks once and for all.
Yeah. Thoughts, friends,
the
responses?
racism is just fucking insane. And this is what we're talking about, right? You can't understand this kind of talk without white supremacy. And I'm sorry that pisses off the white leftists that don't want to talk about these things and put their head, under the fucking ground like an ostrich, okay? If we're talking about cartels, okay, where is the movement in Europe? Okay, where is the movement against Ukrainian mafia, against Azerbaijani mafias? Okay, like these are two of the most powerful mafias in the world right now. And he's talking about getting rid of cartels. Ecuador and El Salvador are run by fucking cartel members, and those presidents were literally included in this corny ass America's Counter Cartel Conference, okay? He's already straight up stating that Cuba is next. Are we trying to insinuate that there are somehow cartels in Cuba? See, and this is what I'm talking about, because everybody knows, don't read the comments.
They weren't in Venezuela either.
To the silly incel sumbitch that want to say, "Oh, this isn't World War III. That requires." Well, how do you explain it then when the United States has military operations happening in Cuba? Okay, I say that by way of Guantanamo Bay being in Cuba. Okay, what just happened in Venezuela? Okay, which is looking more and more like some deals was made. You know what I'm saying? Under duress or whatever the fuck, but deals were made. Okay. We literally were just having military operations in Ecuador and Bolivia by the United States. There was action against cartels with United States intel in Mexico. that was enacted by Claudia Sheinbaum.
And that was that. See, this is the thing with it. You went ahead, you took out the cartel leader, and then there was this huge conversation surrounding, look how chaotic Mexico is. Claudia Sheinbaum can't handle it, but she did it under what United States asked them to do. This is the problem with cartels. Cartels is not just a bunch of people that you can just kill. They are an apparatus that is deeply entrenched in much of South America and Asia. A lot of South Asia is becoming also even a bigger hub for the drugs. But again, there's not that conversation yet around there because, like you said, this is about Central and South Americans, Caribbeans are drug dealers. And
what about Giuliani and his Captagon empire in Syria? Right? Like, most Americans don't even know about this kind of shit. You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, you ain't going to hear about it on Mr. Leibovitz's fucking show. You know what I'm saying? Like, so once again, these are people choosing not to look at how big the great game is. Right now, we have the Americans essentially showing primacy in the entire, they have claimed the Americas for themselves. This is why it's all connected. When they're talking about, oh, we need to take over Panama, we need to take over Greenland, and liberals like Mr. Leibovitz turn it into a joke. Oh, look at how crazy Trump is, without looking at the seriousness of what is insinuated and why there is geopolitical reasons why the Americans would say these kind of things. They use Trump to do these very unpopular but necessary actions the empire requires. And Americans reduce this to, oh, it's just Trump. Just like liberals reduce Israel to, oh, it's just, oh, BB Milikowski. He don't know what he's doing. We get rid of him and we're going to have a regular, a better Israel. All of this shit is connected. And like, I'm sorry if the game is too big for you, go play something else. But the game will continue. And Americans that don't understand great game politics will forever be surprised that these things continue to happen.
Muscle? Thoughts?
The United States is the biggest criminal drug cartel ever. Historical context, Native American tribes who had to deal with the European colonizers around alcohol, China having to deal with opium. Even here domestically in the United States, the United States is one of the biggest drug users across the globe too. And it is absolutely linked to these layers of oppression, to the fact that it's an inhibiting force. It's meant to inhibit us in many ways too. Through alcoholism, we saw that rise during the COVID pandemic, and how it's inherently destabilizing force to either destabilize populations and revolutions or even liberatory thought in favor of drug use. And I say this too because, like, Tanky said it before, that we can't say, oh, Iran is bad, but the United States is going to be the hero. How the hell is the United States going to be the hero when literally pharmaceutical companies were saying, yeah, we were intentionally drugging you guys so you get addicted to tobacco, to the Oxycontin, to methamphetamines and heroin. But don't punish us for it. We thought we were doing good, even though there's literal studies documenting that they knew it was terrible for human beings, and yet they do it anyway. They're doing it with our food. And this is also why, as Tinky pointed out, we have to be paying attention to these things, because they do. They sneak it into our food, into our water, into all of the human testing, illegal human testing that this country and its federal agencies have done across the globe. And those human tests and how they still continue to this day, but we're going to somehow trust the United States to stop a misinformed, propagandized war against drugs against another socialist country. And as Americans, we have to say, wait a second, what is happening here? Why is this happening? What might the United States government actually be trying to achieve by giving me this piece of propaganda instead? And what am I seeing in Mexico? If I do my research, what am I seeing there that maybe the United States government wants to ensure I never, ever see? Because then I understand that the world can be better. that it does not have to be this miserable, horrifying place that the United States wants to have across the globe. And that we can do so much more. But no, I'm not going to trust a government that literally continues to poison its own citizens and poisons the citizens of other countries.
No way, man. That big arch is good for you. Can't you tell by the way that CEO took that little micro bite? It's a wonderful product.
Like he's never eaten food before. This is also the trash
like
of it
he's
all.
Scared
too.
of this shit. Like,
and he should be, because you know it's poison. Like the fact, because Tanky, I think I was talking about with you months ago too, and I saw a Subway commercial for the first time in months. I really avoid ads wherever I go. I encourage everybody to avoid ads as much as possible. But I had to see a fucking Subway ad, and I'm like, how are they still in business after a literal court said it's not real bread? It's not food. And then, of course, I realized this is also part of the problem and why poverty is so systemic is because, well, of course you're going to continue to shop there. What choice do you have if you're broke? And that, to me, absolutely not. You should absolutely have a choice because you should not be subjected to substandard food or literally non-food products in order to survive in this country. And yet here we are.
Non sequitur, but let me just say, so far, as of this very second, we have spent $8,659,260,000 in Iran, just according to the Pentagon. I'm going to keep updating y'all as this show progresses.
Because we can then think about how that $8 billion could be used to solve homelessness, to solve child poverty, which is a stat that shouldn't even exist. I stand firm to that, and I hate that I have to even say those words. Family poverty, that we could solve hunger across the globe with that money. This is infuriating. This is why I'm anti-war, anti-colonialism, anti-imperialism, because it fractures our societies in ways that create long-lasting trauma that we have got to escape.
I'm gonna pivot because the hits keep on coming, guys. Feelings is a big problem for American troops. Okay, and I don't want it because, guys, it's not that the Iranians are killing American service people because of their incredible missile technology. No. This is from NYPD News, and Socialist MMA is quoting it here. But the NYPD mourns the loss of police officer Sorfly Davies, who passed away yesterday as a result of a medical episode while deployed to Kuwait in support of Operation Epic Fury. And Socialist MMA is quote tweeting this, quote unquote, medical episode, laughing emoji. The cover up is real. Going to be interesting when more people deployed in support of Operation Epic Fury also pass away due to medical episodes. Keep it real. You can't even keep it realistic. What is a medical episode, Tanky?
Episode, dog.
Do you know a doctor?
Like Grey's Anatomy, like a medical. What the fuck?
Call your doctor friends and let me know what a medical episode is. You are lying. I think Iran is actually hitting major bases all over the Middle East. They are. I mean, what they said. I mean, the numbers are so ridiculous, man.
So the country that we cannot trust to honestly talk to us like adults about how many American soldiers have died through this war of choice. We're trusting them to give us the amount of numbers that the Iranians killed, right? Like, two things can be true at once, head asses.
Okay, but the United States does have a long history of hiding those numbers, particularly after the Vietnam War, because it does galvanize people. It's also why Israel does it, why they say, oh, no, that fell out of a tree, which is the dumbest shit I've had to read, honestly. But here we are, because if the citizens find out, like, wait a second, I don't know why this is happening, but they do care about the numbers. Although I would say even that's been diminished because human beings, why didn't we care how many people died and now are irrevocably disabled?
You care when it's your family.
Not even from war, but from COVID, from diseases, from the flu, which can create so many long-lasting health issues. Even beyond that is what we're learning from COVID. Yeah, we're going to see a lot more of these, a lot more of the medical episodes, a lot more he went missing, a lot more of, oh, we don't know what happened to them. There was an operation. And as Hanky points out, we don't even know how many folks are under the radar. These are just the soldiers you can account for. Ukraine also did it as well. And that's because they didn't want to do the payouts, because this government owes, and this is the two things can exist at once, where I'm like, I don't believe in war and I hate what the American military represents on a global stage. And yet those families have lost service members, and they deserve that. If this country is saying your child has to go to war, this country absolutely owes those families money and reparations, like it owes Black people reparations. It still owes Native Indigenous tribes reparations, that it still owes so many reparations that it can never pay back. And it could start with the $8 billion that is giving to the Iran war effort. And so we're going to see more of this hiding because they need to be in denial about it. America has always been squishy about this, particularly after the Revolutionary War and how it irrevocably changed the American consciousness around war. This is why it never happens on American soil. After the Civil War, especially, where the United States government and this culture entirely was like, no bombs ever, no fighting can happen here. And what they do, even violently, to repress that sort of uprising and rioting, and how then it takes the global stage. We're going to find out a whole bunch of service members missing. I hope we find out sooner rather than later, but we will find out how many thousands of people are dying right now for something that does not make sense.
Yeah, I mean, you got to remember too, right? In the Lebanese war in the 80s, with the advent of Hezbollah, right, under the Reagan years, they received a punch in the throat that couldn't be denied. 400 Marines were blown up like that. Like, Ronald Reagan had to own that. There was no way to hide it. And the Americans, that's what made the Americans leave Lebanon. But as it stands, the Iranians, again, take it with a grain of salt, are saying they've already killed 800 plus American soldiers, not including contractors, not including Langley people, not including special, mercenaries, right? Not including that. They're claiming they've already killed 800. So somebody's lying, and these numbers are going to come out sooner than later.
Yeah, someone's always lying. And I know we tend to focus on the numbers of people who die, but I never want to erase the fact of how many people actually do become wounded from this. The casualties that are far reaching, both military service members and the civilian casualties, which is what I hate about war. There are people who are being literally harmed and maimed by this, who just wanted to go to school, who just wanted to have a good Ramadan with their families. And this is the depravity of the United States military machine that must be stopped, because it's going to eat everything, including this country itself. If you're selfish enough to be well, that's happening overseas, no, it absolutely affects what happens here domestically. If I can appeal at least to that part of you, it happens here and it affects people here, absolutely. And this is the biggest problem with war ever, because it harms ecosystems, it harms human beings, it harms the entire, having to see the destruction of just beautiful historical pieces of land, and how we have to live that over and over again because some people want to be astronomically richer than they can ever spend in a lifetime.
I want to your point, the Nazis didn't blow up Stonehenge, which is not nearly so old as a great many of the artifacts and the archaeology that exist in Iran. And all that shit is just up for grabs, because we don't have to respect nothing that's not from Western culture, right? Over and over again, this is what we're seeing.
Great points, everyone. Iran is one of the oldest cultures in history. One of the oldest civilizations to exist. Some cities over 3,000 years old. I hear exactly what you guys are saying. You know, and we already know this is the West, what they do. They blow up mosques, they blow up holy places, they kill civilians, and that's what they're doing in Iran. They are killing civilians. They are bombing the HE hockey sticks out of Tehran right now. I mean, it looks really crazy in there. This is how you regime change. You're doing this for the Iranian people while killing so many Iranian people. And then, I mean, there's a couple of videos I didn't show you guys, but I mean, we'll talk about them, I'm sure, throughout the week, Tanky. But, you know, Israel is getting lit up. They're getting lit up, man, in a way that even during that, you know, the 7-day war or 12-day war, I can't remember how many days it was earlier last year, but
they love numbers behind this shit, right? 7-day war, 12-day war,
whatever it is. That was the length of the conflict, but now it looks to be much longer. In the beginning, we heard the Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump saying, "Oh, it's going to take a few days. Now it's going to take a few weeks. Now it's going to take a few months." Well, maybe it's not possible. Maybe you was sold a false bill of goods, or maybe, just maybe, Donald Trump decided to do this himself. He wanted to do it himself. He wanted to get it in himself. I'm not trying to remove any blame from Donald Trump and his administration, because this is on him. This is on his administration. And this is on the people that you know, was telling us, oh, Trump is anti-war. No more regime changes. No more color revolutions. I mean, dude, you guys born yesterday? Of course there was going to be regime changes and color revolutions. There's been plenty. We abducted the literal president, elected president of Venezuela. Just kidnapped him, abducted him. He's sitting in some cell in New York right now. I mean, you are blockading the people of Cuba for no other reason than they decided to go with communism as their economic platform. Mexico, who's done nothing but help the impoverished, has done nothing but improve public transportation, public access to health, and now they're a villain. And Colombia was one of those countries moving more towards the left. Now they're a problem. Now they're an issue. But while you have countries like UAE, you have countries like Saudi Arabia, you have countries like Argentina. These are the places that America loves, because for them, it's about the enrichment of the few. And unlike places like Cuba and Venezuela, and to the much larger extent, places like China, it's not about the almighty dollar only. It is about the general living standards and conditions of its people, and America don't like that.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, imagine criticizing the democracy and the democratic values, right, of Iran, a place where their president, right, note that I said president, the president of Iran was blown up, was about 2 years ago, Raisi, right? 6 months later, they had a whole new election, and that's how we came to Pezeshkian. Now, compare and contrast that with the Kingdom of Bahrain, the Kingdom of UAE, the Kingdom of the House of Saud, the Kingdom of Jordan, right? Notice, like, where the fuck is the democracy there? Like, where are the regime change operations for those kingdoms? If we're bringing democracy to the Middle East, why is it we consistently attack the nations that actually have individuals that are being picked from their representative populations, and we target them?
Yeah. Yesterday was International Women's Day. Just want to acknowledge that, as Mao Zedong said, women hold up half the sky. Maybe they hold up more, you know. Hey, I appreciate, you know, the revolutionary aspect of what women have done for the revolution. I wanted to just throw this out there for you guys. If you guys had anyone maybe you wanted to highlight, since yesterday was International Women's Day, I can start. I just wanted to I think it's important to acknowledge, you know, Shireen Abu Akleh, she was killed 3 years ago, shot directly in the head while wearing a press vest and helmet, hit her in the helmet. This is someone that has been a part of the journalist apparatus in Palestine for decade plus, and was targeted specifically. And no one has ever been, no one's been brought to justice. There's never been an accountability for that. This is a woman who's been investigations that we found we did nothing wrong. It was an accident that we shot a woman with a press helmet from distance, from journalists from hundreds of meters away or several meters away with a sniper rifle. And that is somehow, a mistake or something like that. And it just goes to all the journalists in Palestine, but specifically Shireen. She I think really her martyrdom showed the world how genocidal this regime is, especially towards journalists. And she inspired a lot of people. She inspired myself, and she inspired a lot of those journalists in Palestine to continue the work that they are doing. And they've all been martyred, So that was my selection. I don't know if you guys had any thoughts just sort of about International Women's Day or anybody you wanted to highlight.
Yo, shout out to my favorite commie of all time, man, Asada Shakur. A motherfucker who struggled, spent her whole life, set real distinctions between what the Americans were trying to create by way of second and third wave feminism and keeping a truly revolutionary practice to the point whereas in her death, motherfuckers trying to co-opt her shit and bring her over to her side when she says over and over in her books, I don't really fuck with them.
So many countless that I can name. Lucy Parsons, who is actually American anarchist labor organizer. Vo Chi Tong, who's a Vietnamese revolutionary. I recommend reading about her history if you're like, what can I do? Even Nora Josefina Sorga Gadea de Jenkins, Nicaraguan guerrilla fighter, as part of the Nicaraguan Revolution. There's just so many countless women and just so many countless people throughout history that we can absolutely learn from. And if there is someone out there who's like, what do I do now? Start with reading history, because that increases your imagination and helps you envision what is possible. And then go out there, talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, start with feeding your neighborhood. Nobody in your neighborhood should be hungry. Nobody in your neighborhood should be homeless. And these are the ways that we can start until you guys are ready to take some of the more the next steps, I'll say. But there are other steps that lead us to revolution.
Fantastic episode, friends. I want to give a shout out to our podcast listeners. Hey, we're on Apple, we're on Spotify. I think they reinstated our pod. Sometimes they reinstated one of our podcasts. I can't remember where. Interesting that they took it down. But you can always check us on our Podbean, podbean.com/innercityleft. You will always find our work there if Apple or Spotify is messing around. And so far, we have not had any content removed from YouTube. But, sometimes it doesn't show up in the feed. You got to hit that bell. I usually don't like to subscribe to things and hit the bell. But, if you want to be able to get this content, it's just got to be something you got to do. I want to give a shout out to our Patreon contributors. We love you guys. Patreon.com/innercityleft. Fables, Foibles, Other American Sins, as you see behind me, available in the description. Lil Tanky, everywhere you find music. Amin TMK, everywhere you find music. I don't think Keita has anything to plug at all. I don't want to be like, oh, Keita's left out. She's not like a plug person to all that type of stuff. You know what I mean?
Look, to everybody who's trying to follow me on social media, yeah, sure. I'm just doing other things. It's not you. I know it's a me thing.
Wow, she hit you with it's not you, it's me. I love it. What am I missing? Thoughts, Tanky,
what are you
guys.
Missing? You're missing, as a taxpayer, $8,671,235,000 as of this moment.
How much is student loan debt? I don't know how much.
I just need a couple seconds,
debt.
man.
Why does medical debt exist in the United States with $8 billion going overseas?
Dude,
what is it?
Guys, it's crazy. But we are hopefully, and we'll talk about this another time, hopefully going to be entering into a multipolar world. And this may be the beginning of the end for Western hegemony. No one can tell. No one can know. I'm not saying that I know the future. I'm just saying if you've been following what we've been talking about, or not just us, but there's many people talking about it.
Nature abhors a vacuum.
Yeah. So, wait. Yeah. What did you mean?
Unless it's the vacuum of space?
Yeah.
No, power. I mean, even space is not without mass. Space is filled with mass. You know what I'm saying? Nature abhors a vacuum. And what that means is it seeks balance. Right now, we are unbalanced. One country is imposing its will everywhere, whenever it wants. And that country is not led by the world's most moral leaders. And again, this is not just a shot at the top, because we had all your favorite fucking Democrats just last week vote against a measure that would have forced all of the sexual impropriety that happens in Congress to be named. All of your favorite little Democrats voted against this shit and it failed. AOC, her little weak ass gang, right? Democrats will not save you.
Yeah. I mean, we discussed that on the show today. You know, I mean, when are we gonna move away from the Democratic Party, man? We've had Butch on the show. We hopefully will have some other third party candidates, whether it's Green Party or PSL. We invite y'all to come onto the show, you know, at any time, because again, we're third party voters for this reason, and we don't really get down with the third party hate, whatever it may be. I'm not calling anyone out, but I don't get down with that. Anyway, we've had a long episode. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate our listeners. That should be it for us. For Amoja Little Tanky Summer, for Keita DeMuscle, I am Amin TMK. This is the Inner City Left broadcast. Peace.
System riding to the core. Yeah. Reppin' Inner City Left.